Okay, the first half of the sheeting's on this wing. What we're going to do now is get ready to set up for the second half of sheeting, which goes pretty quickly. I've already got the other sheet made. What we got to do now is we left this 5/8 inch off the trailing edge, is so we have us a nice sharp trailing edge out of the balsa. Anyway, what I do is I pull this up to the table. We're still setting in our foam core. I come in here and add 2 strips of 3/4 inch tape. If you got 1 inches or better, I mean just as much as you can. Anyway, what we're doing, we're coming here and we're going to sand this. Like I said, still setting it. We're going to sand this at an angle all the way down until it matches the angle of the wing all the way down. And we're going to do that so when our next sheet comes across, it makes a nice sharp edge. So I'm going to go ahead and get this sanded, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, I have this area sanded, and you can see that I can take my sanding block and it just flows right over the tip. And we make sure this is all the way down. And you're going to see there's going to be a little bit of a gap here from where it flows, but that's fine. What we're going to do is going to put a bead of this glue right up along the edge here, and then we're just going to rub it along the tip edge. And when that glue, it'll swell and fill up that gap, but we're not worried about it because you're going to be coming across and it'll make a nice sharp or nice strong edge. Anyway, this foam core is ready to be sheeted. The only thing you got to make sure is that before we do sheet it is like we did on the bottom, make sure all this area right here is sanded flush with the wing across there because you want the sheeting to flow nicely. So anyway, I'm going to get this ready and we're going to go ahead and sheet the top and weight it down just like we did the bottom. And I'm going to show you what we have to do back here to the trailing edge to make sure it gets good, a nice and sharp edge. Anyway, I'll get it ready and then I'll be back. Okay, we're setting this one up just like we did before. Our trailing edge is ready to go. You can see I got a piece of glass cloth cut out here, ready to put in place. It just goes over the gear plate area back to the spar. And like I said, this just more or less locks in. You got one on the bottom, one on top. That just gives you a little bit of extra strength to that area. All right, I'm going to lay that off to the side. You need to make sure this landing gear plate comes up above the sheeting. You need to sand it flush and make sure all that's flush. All right. Now we're going to do just like we did on the bottom. The only thing I don't do here, I do not put the piece of glass cloth all the way across the 1 inch wide strip. You don't need it on the top. All your stress comes from the bottom. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and apply my glue here onto the sheeting here, or onto the foam core here, and then I'm going to do it onto the sheeting. And you got to keep in mind that I'm going to put I'm going to put a small bead of glue right down the back here because we want it to swell and fill up that, I mean just a real thin coat of it, because I want to fill that area back there as it cures. Anyway, I'll get the glue applied and then I'll show you what we do as far as putting it together. Okay, you can see here I've got both glue applied to both halves. I've got a slight bead of glue right down the trailing edge, and what that'll do, that'll eventually swell up into that area to fill that gap. All right, we're going to go ahead and we're going to mist the wing with water. That'll help the glue set a little faster. Now we're going to flip our piece over. You always got to make sure you glue the right piece. Put glue on the right side. All right, we're going to start matching up on our trailing edge here. We'll get it pretty close. You want the trailing edge to match, and you got about a 1/2 inch that sticks over the front, but you need to make sure that you're covering your foam all the way across. Just make sure you get it in the right place. Alright, now what I'm going to do is, because this trailing edge, you want to make sure you get a good glue joint back there. What I do is I have a whole bucket. Let's see if you can see it. I have a whole bucket of clothespins. What I'm going to do, come back here on the trailing edge and I'm going to pin that trailing edge. And I'm going to put about an 1/8 inch overlap to make sure I have a little bit to sand off on the back side. Now we're just going to go down through here, and about every 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch we're going to put us a clothespin. Now the blue line shows you where the foam core will come to. That trailing edge well over the end. We're just making sure that there's no bow out back there at all, or that is created. And this, like on my first one over there, it made a nice sharp trailing edge. And these pins, like I said, will be on the back side of the foam core, so you're actually not touching anything. I mean, your foam core won't impede using these clothespins, clothespins. All right, now we got that in place. We're now going to line our foam core up, and we do just like we did on the bottom. We're going to make sure that our cores are all lined up so they get the proper pressure. And I'm going to go back and put my door skin on, or my door to give me the weight to distribute my weight evenly. And then we're going to clamp down the front edge. All right, I'll get this all set up and just show you real quick the same thing we did before. Okay, you can see we have it set up here, and you can see down the back the clothespins are all the way down, and they're on the back side of the foam core here. But everything's lined up. The glue's already starting to seep out, that's fine. And you want to make sure that you get the front end clamped down just to where it's touching the front. You don't want to over clamp it because you don't want to press too hard. Anyway, got this all weighted down. And now we're just going to sit back and let it cure out. It's going to sit 4 or 5 hours and before we pull it up. Okay, I've got the wing pulled up off all the pressure and everything. The wing's fully sheeted. Oops. It's got really nice skins. They're really nice and smooth. What you have to do then is clean up the front edge. I just take, I've got an 80 grit sanding block. I cleaned the front. I went back and put this back on the corner up here at the 3.5 inches and sanded that at the appropriate angle again. I went back here and cleaned up where my bottom piece was. I cleaned it up nice and sanded that edge nice and smooth. And I also did the wing tip. It's all sanded. Everything's nice and cleaned up. All right. The next thing we need to do is lock in this front edge. Now we're going to end up putting a dowel or a wing tongue in here. So what I've done on the front is I like capping the leading edge, and what I'm going to do is I'm cap it with 1/8 inch balsa from here out. But what I want to do is I want to lock in the retract area, and I wanted to give me some strength here when I drill through to put my dowel or whatever. Anyway, what I did is I took some aircraft 1/8 inch. This is actually light ply to aircraft ply. It's a little bit stronger with light ply, and it doesn't have the 5. It's a 3 ply instead of the 5 ply aircraft ply. But anyway, I went in there and I put this on the front and I traced it, and I've got my thing, and it's about 7.5, 8 inches, just enough to cover my box in the front. Anyway, what I do is I go in there and I will epoxy this onto the front. All right, I got that epoxy. Then I will come back and I will glue 1/8 inch balsa to this. I've already done the first one. You can see the plywood piece here. I've sanded it to match there, and then I've got I just use white wood glue to this cap